Welcome to the GCT online series. It's my pleasure to introduce Sebastian Tavenos from Lama, University of Savoy. So in fact, just today we heard that their paper got Best Fox Paper Award, Fox 2021. So Sebastian will tell us about algebraic complexity upper bounds. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
So thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. So yeah, it's my pleasure to present some talk in this school. And so today, I would like to talk about some upper bound in arithmetic complexity, in arithmetic world. So why to look at upper bounds? So in fact, normally upper bounds, it means that to find efficient algorithms for a problem. So it's the main problem of the arithmetic. It seems a bit strange for this school because in general, this school normally the goal is to analyze why some polynomials are hard. The opposite seems to be the opposite. But so it seems to be interesting at the beginning to understand why some polynomials are easy. Just about what we'll talk today. So upper bounds are a lot of upper bounds. So we'll not talk about all of them. There are a lot of algorithms in the world. So we'll focus on things which are more algebraic to stay in the theme of the school. So at the beginning, we just do see some first algorithms, and in particular some algorithms for multiplications of different objects. After, we'll consider some algorithm for reduction between different classes to go between some classes to other classes. And at the end, I would like to finish with some closure properties, which will be closer to what will be in the next talk. So don't hesitate to interrupt me if you have questions. And let's start by some first algorithms. So I will try to focus on let's say interesting algorithm. I put counterintuitive, I'm not sure it's a good word, but to say that something that not trivial, something interesting to understand there's something behind. And we already made some of these algorithms. For example, in the Shrikant talk, he presented different ways to compute elementary symmetric polynomials. So first, he presented a way by dynamic programming, so we can compute this polynomial as projection of the iterative matrix multiplication. And after the second way, he showed also that we can compute them with small formulas. In fact, it's with an interpolation trick. So there are a lot of things, so we not detail more the proofs. If you wanted the construction, you can come back on YouTube on Shrikant's videos. And so first thing we can do already, which I like because it's already seemed for me quite counterintuitive. If we just want to compute first one polynomial of one variable of degree d, you know nothing about p, so p is as generic as you want. And so in fact, we have Horner's rule. We say that if I have a polynomial of degree d like that, we can compute, in fact, we can compute on this way. So we can take the largest coefficient times x plus the next coefficient, we multiply by x, and so on. And we can see like that how many multiplication and addition we need to compute the polynomial. So in fact, we have one multiplication and one addition before each x. So it gives exactly d multiplication and d additions. And first question, can we do best? Is it the best we can do for generic polynomial, or can we do other things? And in fact, this is possible to compute this polynomial with still d addition, d plus 1 addition, but we can divide the number of multiplication by a factor of 2. It seems quite strange for me, but in fact, so the idea is if you look at this polynomial, so we can look at p of x. What we can do, we can, let's take u, an element in C. We'll see just after what we want to take for u. And we take the Euclidean division by x squared minus u squared. So we'll get a polynomial here of degree smaller than d minus 2. Exactly. Let's see. Exactly d minus 2. And here, the degree is at most 1. Okay, now let's see if we can find u such that this polynomial, R of u, is in fact a constant polynomial. So in fact, we can notice that this is equivalent to take u such that P of u equals P of minus u. The reason, it's because for this polynomial, this part is 0, so all this cancel. So we have P of u equals R of u, which will be equal of R of u of minus u. This is an affine line. So if there are two values which are the same, it means it's a horizontal line. So it's the line is constant. So we just want u as the root of a particular polynomial. If P was of this form, in fact, just this means that u is a root when we take only the odd coefficient of this polynomial. I wanted to say it like that. U is the root of that. Let's take u such a root. And now, if I rewrite this thing, it will do, what does it do? It will say that if you want to compute a polynomial P, to infine this, I will put P of D to say it's a polynomial of degree D. And it, like that, can be written as x squared minus, saying to emphasize, it just say that u squared is a constant in C, x squared minus V. Q u of x, in fact, so it will be just a polynomial of degree at most d minus 2. And this thing, so now we know it's of degree 0, so it's constant. So to compute a polynomial of degree d, it's sufficient to compute a polynomial of degree d minus 2. And to add, we can compute x squared at the beginning, is a plus 1, which is here. To add one addition, one multiplication, and second addition. So the number of addition will be 2 plus the number of addition we need to compute that. And the number of multiplication will be 1 plus the number of multiplication we need to compute that, which gives d plus 1 addition and mostly d divided by 2 multiplication by induction. So we have some tricky things already at the beginning, which is, for me, it's quite surprising, but so we can do better. And in fact, so that is for C, but it's true, it's doable also for R. Okay. So after I said before first thing, I will focus mainly on the multiplication of some objects. And something usual here is we are working with polynomial. What can we do if we want to multiply some polynomials? I have the talk here. So if we want to multiply two polynomials, what we want to do? So we have two polynomials, P of A. We have P of B. So one polynomial of degree D, another polynomial also of degree D. And we want to compute a P of C, which will be the product of P of A times P of B. We are still now, we stay in the univariate. Okay. So first idea we can do, we can develop everything. You can see what is the cost of doing that. So develop everything, you can just say, so we just want to compute, you can put that here, that I would see. We want to compute C of I, which will be so we can imagine in our circuit that AI and the BI are the inputs of our algorithm, of our circuit. And so we want to compute the CI at the end. Okay, just compute the CI on this way. It will give a circuit with 2D plus 1 outputs and of some size. And we can notice that the size, for each output, we need one sum and I multiplications. Is it that if we sum, we will get at the end d plus 1 square multiplication. and D square relations. Okay. Can we do better? There is a standard algorithm, Karatsuba algorithm, which improves this method. So what is the idea of Karatsuba algorithm? In fact, the idea is quite simple. When you have, I put X, but I can put in the, with PQ, it will look like more polynomial. Let's say that the P equals a P1Q plus P2. Let's say that Q equals Q1H plus Q2. In fact, if you want to compute PQ, what it will be equal? It will be equal to P1Q1 H square plus P1Q2 plus P2Q1 H plus P2Q2. I just expanded. Okay, so we see that now what we can do, we can look at this as a polynomial and cut it roughly in the middle, degree at d divided by 2. Let's say, so it says that P will be the thing which are smaller than degree d divided by 2, plus P1 polynomial, which will be a degree smaller than d divided by 2, multiplied by x, which will be just x to the d divided by 2. We can take in the ID, take h equal to x d divided by 2. Is what I want to do. Okay, so in fact, the idea is now if we want to compute the product P of Q, P of Q, in fact, we just need to compute this product of polynomial of degree d divided by 2 instead of d. So here we think we need 1, 2, 3, 4 multiplications. And in fact, we can notice that if we do it by induction, here it will be still the same bond than here. So just now, let's just compute the number of multiplications. But in fact, the remark by Karatsuba, it's a quite easy remark. It's just that if we want to compute that, in fact, we can compute so here we have all the product, but we can remove. And now if we remove these two products, we just add the missing part. So this is inequality. The good thing here is this product, we already computed. We need to compute it. So we can just compute it, store it, and use it here when we need it. Same for here. We need already here. So we can reuse this computation, this time here. And here we see we just need one new multiplication. So now the number of multiplication we need, we have one multiplication here, one multiplication here, and one multiplication here. So we are computing PQ with 3 multiplication from the multiplication of, so let's say, so to compute number of multiplication, let's say, and to compute 2 elements of degree D, it will be smaller than 3. Where n is the number of computation of multiplications. Putting the product of 2 polynomials. And if you solve this induction, you will get that ND is of the size. See, the idea is if here we have 2, you get something linear. If we have 4, it was the case before, you get something exactly quadratic. but here we get something in the log 3 in base 2. Okay, so Karatsuba algorithm, we get something in d to the log. I don't want to spend too much time on fast Fourier transformation. We can do something better with fast Fourier transformation, but I still want to give some ideas. Notice that it's fairly just the same that always arithmetic, just do addition, multiplication, things like that. In fact, the idea is if we take n strictly larger than 2D, in fact, it's sufficient to solve the product if we take n larger than 2D, the degree which will appear, we can do it modulo xn minus 1 because we'll not remove anything which will be interesting for us. So take n the power of 2, which is not really larger than d, and w hence take an primitive root. Okay, let's look at one morphism from Cx to Cn. When we have a polynomial p, we send it to we evaluate this polynomial, silent, on n values. These n values. We cannot see, in fact, just clearly it's a linear, it's additive, it's multiplicative. If we take the product here, it will correspond to the product components wise. Okay, so we have a morphism of algebras. We can notice that, in fact, the kernel of this application, it is xn minus 1. So, in fact, we can quotient by the kernel. Okay, and now we just notice at the beginning, we can in fact prove that this is an isomorphism. Okay, so now the idea is just to compute PC, so the product we want. In fact, it is just we take our two polynomials, PA and PB. We do one direction of the isomorphism. Here we do the product, and we come back from the isomorphism. The idea is now when we do the multiplication, we just multiply two elements, NU plates in C, so that we just need n multiplications. So the only thing, in fact, this thing is to show that this transformation is easy to compute, it's fast to compute. And in fact, we can just notice that the n of what is it? In fact, we want to evaluate this in omega j. So it is just it's omega 1 appendix 0. In fact, each cell I have omega ij. the first row, it will be, sorry, C-lines. Sorry, so the first row, it will be when we evaluate this polynomial in W0. The second row, it will be we evaluate this polynomial in W1, and so on. First thing we can notice is, in fact, this matrix is inversible. And in fact, DFT minus 1, it is the same matrix. We have a coefficient 1, but we replace the W by W minus 1 AJ, which gives that already it's an isomorphism. We can go in one direction, in the other direction. And the last thing to finish is just that here it seems that we win nothing, in fact, because here we still need to compute this product. It seems to be of size D times, so it still seems to be D squared. And the idea, it was to be quadratic. But in fact, we can notice that so for all I, this thing, what is it? In fact, you can look at the thing when the exponents are odd or even. When we are doing this product, you can look at if J, if it is odd or even. And we can separate both cases. So here we have the case where 2J, J are the even ones. Here is the product I times 2J. And here is the case when J is odd. Here is the product I times 2J plus I, so it's I times 2J plus 1. You have the coefficient which correspond here. And in fact, so here we notice the same thing than before, but with a thing of size n divided by 2. Similarly here, when you just multiply by one thing before. So DFT, when you multiply by A, in fact, is the sense that, well, let's say DFT of n when we DFT of n. So it's the same than doing DFT on n divided by 2 when multiplied by the even of A. And we have the DFT n divided by 2 DFT, the odd of A. But here we see that we need to multiply by some WI. So in fact, here we just need to multiply by a diagonal matrix formed by W0, W1, W2 until WN. Here. I'm a bit fast to see like that. You can slowly look at that it will work. In fact, the idea is just now, so we replace one multiplication of one matrix to another scalar. We need to do it one time, this times this. It will be the same for this times this. So it's only one computation. We need this times this and this times this. Sorry, so this times this and this times this is the same. So we need 2 times multiplication of a matrix by a scalar. And instead we have this thing, we can just multiply by a diagonal matrix, but multiplying a vector by diagonal matrix by a vector, it's just a linear. This is just linear. And after to do this computation, we need to add this product plus this product. So we have one sum and one other addition here. So in fact, the complexity of n, it is 2 times the complexity n divided by 2 plus something which is linear. And this gives directly what we would like and log n, what we like. Well, the idea in a few minutes, sorry if I was a bit fast, to explain what is behind the fast Fourier transform. In fact, what I wanted to say that is just to show, to see, it's just addition and multiplication at the end. So we can really get a circuit. We compute at the end the product of our two polynomials. You can see that the algorithm is just to compute this thing by induction. So we just do some addition, multiplications, and so on. And when you do the inverse, by the same, but with the matrix W to the -1. So the fast Fourier transform was that. And see, we did the computation over C. And so the big result was by Shonaj and Strassen. They show that that is also possible. We can simulate the computation over C using only integers or rationals and with a cost, which is log. So we can do even that on Z or Q. In particular, one thing which is already interesting, if we want to compute multiplication of polynomial, but one thing which could have before is what happens if we want to multiply integers. And if we have big integers we want to multiply, we can cut them and just write them as a multiplication of polynomial when we give a value of the indeterminate, which is the base to the some constants. And so we can compute the product of two integers in this complexity. So the size of U, it's already put U smaller than V. So the size of V is already smaller than log V. So by log V, I want to say possibly size of V. So size of V times log of size of V times log of size of V. Okay, so we saw multiplication of polynomials. Another classic algorithm on this family are the multiplication of matrices. So multiplication of matrices, what we have two matrices with variable, and we want to compute the product. Okay, what can we do? First, we can do the full decomposition and see what happens. The full decomposition and nothing, but in fact, we can see it's n cube. For each xij, what we do in the product, we look at all the row here, the I row, we look at all the column j, and we multiply pairwise the first element times the first element, the second element times the second element. So we have n multiplication, we sum them, it will give one value. We need n square values. Each one, the cost is n, so at the end, the cost is n cube. So similarly to Karatsuba algorithm, there is an algorithm by Strassen to compute this product of matrices. What we can do, the idea, if we take matrices now type just 2 by 2, and we want to do the product. In fact, we can notice that we can do the product to do, I can put like that, but AE plus BJ, CE plus DJ, AF plus BH, CF plus DH. And if we look at, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 multiplications. Okay, and in fact, the way Strassen showed, in fact, it's possible to do better for the number of multiplications, similarly to what Karatsuba did for polynomials. Just here, it's a bit, I think, a bit worse to say, so we can try to be convinced, or you can check one day if you want. This is always completely not clear, that will help. But if we do that, we do, look, each mi is just one multiplication. So we have only 7 multiplication and not 8. And when we group everything, it seems we have the good product at the end. So now the idea is the same as Karatsuba. We can do it by induction. We have a matrix of type NN. We cut it any by 2, any by 2. It gives 4 new matrices. And we do this algorithm. And we do this transformation will be multiplication of matrices of type n sur 2, any by 2 by any by 2. We do it by aggregation in our new algorithm on this multiplication. And so the complexity will be n to the 7 log by log in base 2. In fact, if it will be 4, it will be quadratic. If it was 8, it was the thing basic when we develop everything, give exactly n cube. So 7, we see it's a bit less than n cube. It's n to the 2.81. After, there are a lot of words which happen about the product multiplication. So I will not detail the talk of them now, because I think I'm not specialist already of these things and probably we need really more than really need one talk to talk. But in fact, there are a lot of results. And currently, the best bond, so it is n to the 2.3728596. So I put quite a lot of digits, because what is interesting, if we, so even I didn't put exactly all the name, but most of the name, but there are also Pan, Penny, Stother. In fact, particularly the result by Stother, it was n to the 2373, which was improved after by Williams in n to the 23729, which was improved after by simultaneously, since that Williams and Le Gall in n to the 2.3728596. So even all the new results are just improving the 4-5 digits in the exponents. Okay, I don't know if there will be some, because there are things that are really related with the border rank of tensors and border rank behind this result. So I don't know if I didn't see exactly in the course of lectures, if there's a lecture on this problem, but I really need one talk, entire talk to really detail what is behind, I think. Okay, after the first algorithms, I said I will talk about the reductions between the different classes. So reduction, in fact, it's an upper bound. In fact, it's what we can do, compute is one model. Can we compute it? We want to find an algorithm to compute it in some other models. And they were already stated that the fact that there are some relation between iterative matrix multiplication and determinant. And in fact, in Avi's talk, Avi noticed that we can compute the product of determinant, the sum of determinants, quite easily. And in fact, I can even show that we can compute IMM very directly. Let's take, if we want to take, let's take an example. That will be easy. Let's take a product of matrices, X, Y, Z. After, we want to multiply it by new matrices, for example, AC, B. To see that product of matrices work, in fact, there is one thing we need. It's this thing that n1 here equals n1 here, n2 here equals n2 here, so 2 equals 2, n3 here equals n3 here. It's the thing we need to compute, to define the polynomial on the side of the matrices. Okay, so now look at the matrix. It's not square at all. Oh, it should block. Okay, I just take a matrix 8, 8. Why 8, 8? Just I choose n1 plus n2 plus n3 plus 1. So 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 8. And now I just copy the matrices I want to multiply. The first matrix, second matrix, third matrix, last matrix. One thing already you can notice is the fact that as it's n1 here and n1 here, this will be on the diagonal, this will be on the diagonal, n2 and 2, so this will be on the diagonal, and 3 and 3, so this will be on the diagonal. So until now, it's upper triangular. Now, as in, if you remember in Aristotle, add someone. And so my claim is the determinant of that is exactly the product of the matrix before, maybe up to a sign. We'll see the sign of a product. And we can quite easily notice how why it works. So in fact, we can see it's very, very easy to transform products of matrices into a determinant. We just have to copy the matrix inside our matrix, our big matrix, and compute the determinant at the end. Now, why does it work? In fact, we just want to show, for example, if what we want to compute the determinant, the idea we want to develop along the first row. Forget for now for the sign. Let's assume that we forget for the rows. For example, we forget along the y variable. When we expand along the y variable, we remove this row and this column. Okay, now if we look at these columns now, there are only one row which are only one value. So we need to choose these values. So we need to choose this one, and we need to choose this one. So we just multiply the y by, and now the next one will be in this row. Exactly what we wanted. We wanted to match the monomial here as to if we choose y, we need to choose something in the second row here. So C of D. Similarly, now we can notice that as soon as we cancel everything, this is exactly the case before. We have a one row here and the new matrix. So as soon as we have y with D, we will cancel, we do something in the second row, and so on. So like that, it will appear exactly the monomial which appear here. Now there is one thing which is at the end we can notice what happens about the sign of the permutation. But in fact, we can notice if we choose something, let's index the variable by 1, 2, and so on. When we choose one variable here, we need to add a sign -1 to the I, if it is a colon I. Y plus 1, sorry. I can put something. If I choose the first element, it is a positive. So I equals 1, it's 1. So I just, the sign I have to add, I plus 1. In fact, each time after I put choose a 1 here, it is completely at the top left. So the coefficient will be 1. For the one which are below this one, in fact, when I can do that. When I cancel a 1 here, what happens? It's the second row because there is the row I skipped here. And here, this one will appear in the second row. So each time I have a -1, and each time I have a 1 after the column I considered. So this will be n1 plus I or minus I. Sorry, it was not clear. We put here it's a -1, the n1. So in particular, in front of my monomial, the coefficient I had, it was m1, n1 minus 1. And the good thing, in fact, that doesn't depend on the monomial. So the monomial, the coefficient we get at the end here, it will be always m1, sum of the ni, plus the d minus 1, the number of, we have a -1 at each time. -1 or +1 is the same, it's modulo 2. And so this doesn't depend on which monomial. So it will be -1 or +1, but it will be the same for all the monomials. So we can just adjust with that if we have to take +1 or -1. But so to compute this project matrices, you just put the matrices, you put 1 is diagonal below, and you compute the determinant. So it already says that that the determinant can be computed by iterative matrix multiplication. So it's known from Berkowitz. And I just wanted to give some ideas. There is, I think, a beautiful proof by Majan and Vinay. Mina is here. The idea of this proof is what? Is to look at an interpretation of the determinant inside the graph. A combinatorial interpretation of the determinant. If we look at, so we want to look at det of A. Let's consider A as the adjacency matrix of a graph. So if A is n times n, we take a graph with n vertices. And between two edges, ij, we put the edge xij, the edge xji, and if here is k, everywhere we put xkk. Some loops. Okay. So now what is determinant? It is the sum for all the permutation with some weight. And in fact, it is quite well known that the permutation you can just represent it as a union of cycles. You can look at the permutation as the cycles part is a union of cycles. And in fact, we can say if you look at one cycle, so it will correspond here to monomial something which do a cycle, which will correspond in fact in the graph for a cycle. For example, if you have the cycle ij, it will correspond to the graph here xij, iji. And so, in fact, this thing will be just the product of the cycles, and this type, the weight of a cycle will be the product of the edge along the cycles. So one way to see the determinant is just of sigma of, let's say union of cycle covering the graph. The weight, in fact, we can just say it's a number of cycles. As it's the same here, that there is a plus minus one. I think it's minus one to the n. I could check, I didn't check. I think we have to add minus one to the n here. And I say I, what to say, sigma of I is the next element is the cycle after I. Let's call it C of I. Okay, so we want to compute that. And so the great idea, it was to compute something different. If you can see that the beginning is different, it's the close. We can see one problem to compute this thing. It's to compute a cycle, the cycle has to cover the graph. Exactly. It will give a partition at the end. So at each time, we need to exactly to know what we already saw before. So that is hard to compute and to nothing. So the great idea of the close, it was to also idea to keep only things in memory. We need to remember this thing. So what do we call a close? A close walk in a graph. With several properties. So if the graph is I1 IP, it's closed, so I want to say that IP equals IQ. Sorry, I1 equals IP. Is what I say by close. And I want something, I want that the first element, so this one, I1 IP, is the smallest element I see along the close. Okay, it's what will be a close. Okay, now we want to look at a close sequence. When you say close sequence, it should just be a sequence of close. And I want to add something. I want the heads, so what I call the head of the close will be the first elements. I want that they will be strictly increasing. Okay, so I just have so we say a work is just something we go here, 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 here. At the end, we finish. Sorry, no. So exactly, of course, if we start by 2, we need to go above 2. So here, 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 and go to 2. Maybe we can go several times by the same vertices. The only thing that we have to start by 2 and we finish at 2, and we cannot go by 1. And so the same so close. So we have this thing which start by 2. So the next one we start by 4, which doesn't use 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, and the big result by Majan Lindner is notice that if we want to do the sum of the cycles, covering n of a -1 number of cycles. Is the same that if we do the sum of the closed sequence. The same single covering, in fact, we need one condition. We need that the sum of the CI, the length of the sequence is n. Is the same, is xi and the following after in the closed sequence after I. And in fact, in a minute, the idea is just that cycles are particular case of closes. Cycles are just closed when there is no intersection. We'll get everything at the end of the partition. So in fact, we just have more elements in this sum. I just want to have the idea that these more elements, in fact, they cancel together. And just in one word to say why it cancels. In fact, if we look at the close sequence, at the beginning, it seems to be a covering by cycles. There are no intersection. At some point, there will be an intersection. Maybe in CI, there will be an intersection. Two cases can happen. Either the intersection it is inside the CI, or it is with an element which has before. What I claim that if the intersection it is with an element before CI, CI intersect, let's say Cj with a j smaller than I. Okay, we can make a new sequence just by adding the sequence in CI after the intersection. So in Cj, isn't clear, sorry. In Cj, we go somewhere. At some point, we go by a vertex. Sorry, not. I mix two things. I want to see either the head is appeared before. Oh, it's new. Ah, sorry, a bit small error in the I wanted to say.
Sebastian, I think you start from the back rather than from the front.
Okay, I do the work in the other direction.
Then the cutting only takes the piece further out to the right.
No, but okay, yeah, there's something, but in this direction, I really, it doesn't work if I say that. I am cheating. I want to say that if there is an intersection before, what I want to say, I want to add the cycle, the work CI in CJ. I know in CJ at some point I will go to the vertex, there is an intersection. I add the work from CA from here. So I remove the cycle, the closed CI, and I merge it inside the closed CJ, which was before. And we know that the element of CI are larger than the head of I, which is larger than the head of CJ. Maybe if, sorry. So what happened here is we have CA, CI, CJ, and we have a CI which has an intersection somewhere. So I replace these two clauses by the new one. We start by CJ, we do the role in CI, and we finish in CJ. Okay, and the other thing is the fact that in CI, we have an intersection with CI. What happens? It means that we do the clause in CI. At some point, we have an intersection. We have the first intersection. And now I want to transform this into clause, this one, and this one, when it takes as the head the smallest element which appear here. I know the head will be larger than the head of this one, so it will be larger on the right. And what I claim is the weight of the two things. In fact, the products of the edges will be exactly the same. The only thing which will be different, it will be the -1 to the number of cycles. I just change by 1. So the one will be minus something, and the one will be exactly plus the opposite. So in fact, they will cancel together. So the only one which will not cancel in the sum will be the one such that there will be no intersection, which corresponds exactly to this one. And so now this sum of clause is quite easy to compute, because in fact now we just need to remember the clause we are trying to compute, so the head, because we need to stay larger than the head, and the current position, and the length. As soon as we have, we know we are in the clause CI with the A was a U, and we are currently at the gate V, not V, we can go to any vertices which is larger than the A, U, and the length will increase by 1. So we need to start with 3 things: the head of the what we are computing, where we are. So here there are n possible vertices, n possible vertices, and the length, which should be constant. So yeah, it was I don't know. So in fact, with the way I'm trying, I think it was okay, but I don't know. At some point, I had something I thought it will not work. So sorry, I was clearly not quite a lot confused for this proof. But so we can do the proof, compute it in Ncube, and yeah. Just maybe to say, in fact, we can do it by ABP. Let's say we can take each vertex. We say we are UVK, which means all polynomial want to compute by induction. This polynomial here, it's all the polynomial which are sequence of clause, beginning of sequence of clause, where the current clause, the current head is U, the current vertex is V, and length K. And in fact, by ABP, we want to go to something which are X, Y, K plus 1. We put an edge. We can do it. No, we can do it. If the clause, roughly normally the clause and the clause are in the same clause, and we are X from V to K. And it happens sometimes that we finish the clause, we start a new one. But this can only happen when we are at an edge which we finish the clause. So we are at the beginning of the clause. In this case, we go to the vertices which are of the form V with a V strictly larger than U. If we don't want to add to nth length, we need to say something which is the neighbors of A. And here we have XW. Okay, we just have some -1 to the number of clause. So we just, for example, each time we finish a clause to put a minus. So therefore the ideas. Okay. Another reduction, but in fact we'll not see it here. Now we'll see. But so we saw before the classes, and most of the time we have we say we have formulas which are included inside the branching program, which are included inside circuits, small circuits. And the question, if we have something here, how much does it cost to compute it in this model? In fact, we can do it in the size. If we have something here in size S, we can compute by formula of size S to the log D. But in fact, that we'll see as a, for example, it's a consequence of the big result by Baliance, Kuhn, Berkowitz, Rakov, but it will be really the main thing of the next talk. We'll see. Okay. But so now we see a bit how in VBP you can change between form determinant and IMM, and so here we can, if you have a formula, you have small IMM and so on, small circuit, and if you have a circuit, can, and we cannot improve, we don't know how to improve this bound for this inclusion or this inclusion, if one of these bounds can be improved. Okay. I just wanted to recall some things about counting problems. I will not stay a lot of time because Avi's thoughts are already a lot of details about what I want to say, but I want to say that for VNP, class VNP in general, is often the class when we represent by the class when we want to count a number of things. And naturally, we have a lot of problems from that. For example, if you have a graph, and let's say that we have the matrix the same. We have the vertex and the number on the vertices, and we can put the directed graph xij on the right on the edge aj. So we have the convention that the variable xij is the same as the variable xji. Okay. So for example, if we look at sum for all a included inside n, product for all aj and ad. This polynomial, we can often call it a clique n. Sometimes it is star, because in general, clique n is not exactly this one called. But what happens for this polynomial, we can notice. In fact, for all subset of the vertices, we'll add one monomial. When the monomial is just we take all the edge which correspond to this subset. In particular, this polynomial is just the sum for all the cliques which appear, all the sum of all the weights of the cliques, where the weight of the clique is just the product of the edge along the clique. So if we put a 1 if there is an edge and 0 if there is no edge, this polynomial will just count the number of cliques in the graph. So it's an easy way to see that we have in general a problem from Boolean world, but often it's easy to convert them in a polynomial. And for one thing. And we can notice, for example, clique in general, we want to count clique of some size. We can do it here by taking the monomial which are some degrees. So we saw before by interpolation the same thing that for elementary arithmetic polynomial. For example, if we each variable, we add a t, we take a clique, and for each variable, let's say x is x12, x13. I just would add some t, multiply each variable, after each variable. This will be a polynomial in. And now, if I look at what will be the coefficient in front of the monomial of t to the k, and look at the coefficient of that in front of t to the k, it will be exactly the monomial of degree k. Now, if you want a clique of size k, p, let's say, it means that we need a monomial of size p choose 2, because a clique of size p, it will be a p choose 2 edges between this inside this clique. So if I look at the monomial in p choose 2.
Sorry.
Yes?
There seems to be some issue with your sharing, is it? I don't know. I can't.
You don't see? Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's not updated.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Now it's coming.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
So if I look at the coefficient of that in front of it will be exactly correspond to the clique of size p. What I call by that is the coefficient of this monomial in front of that. And how we can extract one coefficient from one variable, we see just after. And it's exactly what was done in Shrikant talk for elementary symmetric polynomial for the formula. In fact, we just want to evaluate in sufficiently number of points for t. And in fact, it will be just an interpolation because it will give a van der Waals matrix. And we can extract the coefficient before. Okay, so sometimes click of P is this polynomial. So they put star here. Okay, so we have click. We can do exactly the same thing for Hamiltonian circuits. We can do exactly the same thing for matching in a perfect matching, I wanted to say, bipartite graph. And in fact, this polynomial which we obtain here is a particular polynomial which is exactly the permanent of a matrix. If we put A the matrix, when we put here is a bipartite graph, we put on the row the cell ij, the vertex, the edge of the vertex from A in the first set to J to the second set. This polynomial corresponding here exactly is permanent. And yeah, we can see easily because in fact, to give a perfect matching between two sets, it's just for any elements here, we want to give a matching to a permutation from the first set to the second set. So it's quite, it's not a surprise, in fact. You can see it quite directly. And so main result by Young, it was that permanent, so there are a lot of results. It was already showed it's a Sharpie complete, but for us, mainly the main thing, it is VNP complete. In particular, it means that all the things in VNP, if we can compute permanent, we can compute all the things in VNP with a smaller circuit. The technical thing that we need, the characteristic of the field is different too. It's not really, it's more than technical because in fact, the characteristic is 2, the permanent is the determinant. And so it is easy to compute. So it's just not true when the characteristic is 2. And in fact, something which here, what I would say technical is for a lot of polynomial is not the problem. In particular, for a click polynomial or Hamiltonian circuit polynomial, they are VNP complete also. And for this polynomial, even when the characteristic is 2. These two polynomials are VNP complete for every field. Yeah, so yeah. And hopefully all counting problems are not hard. But yeah, I'm already later. I said maybe to give something about the result by Castellane that so permanent it is counting the number of matching in a bipartite graph. Now, if we force the graph to be planar, let's still get a bipartite, but we don't need it. We take any graph, but we take it with planar. And in fact, Castellane showed that in this case, we can compute. We can count the number of matching. And in fact, even for us, algebraically, it means if we put weights on the edge, we can compute the polynomial, which is at the end the sum of the weights of each matching. Even for the number of trees. One thing which happened first, very fun for Castellane, I want to say before. In fact, the idea of this, it's so we want to compute something which will be of this thing. To n, yeah, sorry, to n. We'll take a partition of length 2n, and I want to put here sigma of 2i, sigma of 2i plus 1. Okay, is this polynomial? In fact, it's a polynomial which is famous. It was introduced by Cauchy. In fact, already Cauchy seemed to say that he called it Pfaffian because it seems that it's already known by Pfaff. That is the name of the person. So in fact, when X will correspond to, let's just take it antisymmetric. This one. And so if we compute this polynomial, it is a Pfaffian matrix. And in fact, the result already by Cauchy is the fact that for such a matrix X, in fact, the determinant is the square. The polynomial, it's the square of a polynomial. And the Pfaffian is the square root of this polynomial. In fact, there is already, it was known some way to compute directly, efficiently the Pfaffian. But we will see just after, there is as soon as we know something for determinant, in fact, we can get something for square root of determinant. In fact, I just wanted to add some few things here. Okay, let's finish the talk by say some closure property. Sorry. It's not in the order. Yeah, I didn't say closure. Okay, we put sorry. Change the order here. I wanted to add something about the fact that now we have some problem and we are trying to get the small formula or small circuit for this problem. And now let's say that at the beginning we know we have some small circuit for something. We don't know exactly the manual. And we can show that we can, from this circuit, we can able to transform it to get new upper bounds. And first thing, in fact, we often use, I will not detail it too much here, is the fact that if we can compute a polynomial with a small circuit and then with a small ABP, we can compute the homogeneous component quite easily. And in fact, it's mostly the idea as I said just before, for example. Okay, we will see that more later. One point, this is not true. This is not supposed to be true. We don't know for formulas. If we can prove it's not true for formulas, it will separate the formulas to ABPs. So we don't know. We're not able to prove this is not true. We don't think this is true, but maybe, as Avi said, maybe there is a small formula for determinants. In this case, it will be true. So the question, let's say already for formulas, is we saw elementary symmetric polynomials. And we have some small formulas for elementary symmetric polynomials. Are there some homogeneous formulas for this polynomial? This polynomial are homogeneous. Okay, I will, if we are not clear about what is an homogeneous formula, I will not stay on that. It will be a lot more detailed the next talk. So really will be about these things. Okay, now another result which are very interesting is the fact that if we can compute a polynomial efficiently, we can in fact compute the derivatives very efficiently. When I say very efficiently, mostly by the same sign than the beginning. Boas-Schwarzen, if we can compute f in size S, we can compute all the derivatives in size just linear in S. It's a bit surprising because it seems at the beginning that if we want to compute all that, mostly we'll need S for each one. So it will be n times S. But in fact, we can do it more efficiently by doing everything just in time S. An example, which will be important, I think, so in the lecture for lower bounds, it will be if you want to compute this polynomial, if we have a circuit to compute this polynomial, which is a power element symmetric polynomials, in particular, we can compute similarly all the derivatives. And the derivatives of this one are quite nice, it's just this family. So to compute, if we have something smart to compute all these things which are a bit merged, we can compute separately, closely, all these polynomials which are completely distinct. So it seems there is no way to really use the thing on the other thing to get the first one, and so on. I don't know how much time. I don't know if I wanted to say some ideas about the proof. So I have 10 minutes still before the end.
Yeah, sure. You can take 10 minutes, positive.
So it's 5 minutes here, and it takes 5 minutes to finish. Alors, let's take, for example, so we start with the circuit for F. And let's say that I take my circuit such that I can put some layers. Mostly, I want to take, I have the input. And at the beginning, I do just addition. In fact, I have a multiplication, I just addition, which is nothing. I just add this gate with no other gate. And like that, I have an addition. And I take multiplication. So I have a layer of addition. I require that my multiplication of any two addition, I allow a large family. After the addition, we have some multiplications. And let's assume at the end it will be multiplication. And at the end, we have an addition. Okay. Now, what I want to say, I want to consider Fi. So this will be the depth. Let's say delta. Okay. Now I want to consider Fi for I smaller than delta plus 1, I think, or delta. Yes, start by 0. We start by 0. So that I want to compute the same thing, but I cut at the length I, depth I, and I replace at this stage all the gate bar variables. So I put more here. I put here. If I look at now this thing, Fi will be that. So the top of the circuit will be exactly the same. I have exactly the same structure here. Here, I want to say that the depth is I. So there are I layers of edges. So I plus 1 layers of the vertices. And I want here, before it was addition and multiplication, addition or multiplication, it depends on the layer. But I replace this by new variables. I will index this new variable by I to say I have one new set of variables for each length. Okay, so in particular, F0, it is the thing when I have just one vertex, I label by one new variable, which was x0, 0. So it is just 0, 0. Okay. And now the idea, we want to compute all the derivative of Fi along the variable which correspond to Fi. At the end, if we do it by induction on I, we'll get for I equal delta plus 1. But this was exactly what it said at the beginning. When delta plus 1, we have the variable here, which are the initial variables, and all the circuits of the circuit here. Okay, so the idea, we want to compute the delta of Fi plus 1 using the delta of Fi. Okay. What we can notice that Fi plus 1, in fact, it is Fi when we replace all the variable xi by either addition or multiplication. So xi will be a function of the variable xi plus 1. By the chain rule, derivative of Fi plus 1 along a variable xi plus 1, let's take the variable k. It is the sum over j of derivative of Fi along xij, derivative okay. Now I say I have two cases. Either the layer of A plus 1 corresponds to an addition, the layer of A corresponds to addition, either it's multiplication. So maybe x, I, j are additions. In this case, what does it mean? It means that these things, in fact, are just constants. Even it can be even a linear combination. So we have some constants here, I think. But this thing will be just a constant. Derivative of this function with respect to a variable for a linear form is just a constant. So in this case, this polynomial, this thing will be just the sum of these things. By induction, we already compute these things. We just had, for computing one gate, we just had one sum, which are linked to these things. Second case, this variable is a product. Okay. Now I say that what it means that xji, this derivative, it is something non-zero only if this variable is this one or this one. If this variable is one of, for example, this one, this derivative will be the other one. In particular, each time I will take this gate, I will multiply by this one or this one. There are two cases. So now I say, in my new formula, I compute iteratively the gate. So I start from derivative of f0 of x0. And now I want to compute iteratively. I have always all the dfi, dxi. And I can add something. In the case where I is a multiplication gate, I want, so we know multiplication is something like that. I want to compute also to add the gate, which computes dfi over dxi times xki plus 1. Okay. I want to add one gate for any element like that. And when xij, I correspond to xij, which is the multiplication of two elements, I add these two gates. My claim is the number of gates. This exactly, there is one gate like that for each gate here. And each gate like that can create at most two new gates. So the size of the new circuit is at most 3 times the size of the old one. And now, so when we have the addition, we do for the fi plus 1, we do some of these elements, which are already completed by induction. If we have a multiplication, we need to compute fi plus 1, which are the sum of this thing. And this thing, exactly, it is this one or 0, which is already computed by induction. So each time I have a new gate, I have plus gates which are above. And to compute this one inductively, we just need this one was already computed by a new variable, and this one by a new variable. So this is just a product gate and a product gate. Okay, so if we have a circuit which computes a polynomial f, we can compute all the first derivative in type at most 3 times the time of all the circuits. Okay, so just for some closure things, let's do it like that. We would have called by small, I want to say it was a polynomial, is the idea behind. If you have a polynomial which are computed by a small circuit, if you have a polynomial, you add polynomially number of this polynomial, you can still have a small circuit, which is the sum. Like the idea behind, it's you can put some, to be careful what they say by composition, because composition of a multivariate polynomial means there are a lot of inputs, but if we take we replace one input by a new polynomial, take two polynomial, which have small circuits of small IDP of small formula. We replace one variable of the first polynomial by the second polynomial. We get a new polynomial, which will still have a small formula or small IDP or a small circuit, but small is a polynomial. And clearly, another thing, in fact, I've already said several times before, these classes are closed for linear projections. If we have the polynomial computed by a small circuit, if we replace each variable by the small linear, or even an affine form, it still be computed in the small model. What can we say about taking coefficient? So it's the idea of interpolation. We already saw it a lot of times. In fact, it's quite easy. You just need in general to add the sum. So if we have a polynomial, so for me, univariate something like that. In fact, I just want to take a coefficient in front of one variable. So I can see a polynomial as n some variable and a new variable y. So I see this polynomial just as a univariate in y. And I want a coefficient of some monomial in front of y. It's already the same method, it's just the interpolation algorithm. So we just need to do a sum of things which are computed before, to evaluate things which are computed before for some value of y, and to sum. We know these classes were stable by summation. So here summation times z. So we maybe have a blow up of size D. In multivariate case, which is something which would be interesting, is what happens if you have something polynomial, it's different variable, and you want to take a coefficient. And in fact, things in fact to all the classes considered in general are not closed for that, and there is a simple reason. We can compute this polynomial with a very small formulas, with a polynomial in the xt variables. There are a very small formula for this polynomial, and if we want to extract the coefficient in front of this polynomial, this is exactly the permanent. So even for this small formula, if we can H5 coefficient, so this formula belongs to this class, to this class, to this class. If any one of this class is closed by taking coefficient, it means we can compute permanent in this class. It means that this class equals VNP. But yeah, this is true for VNP. We can see that if we take a polynomial in xy variables, so n x variable, n y variables, we can take any coefficient along some y monomials. It will be a polynomial in the x variable. And if the first polynomial was in VNP, the new one is still in VNP. And just one thing which we did a lot of time, the univariate case, one thing which is, you can always have the trick to add some variable t. And so we can extract the monomial with the largest coefficient, or can put different weight for the different variable and extract the largest weight monomial or the smallest weight monomial in the same way. Okay, and to finish, just the closure by taking factors. And something I think very interesting for circuit fast model, in fact, it doesn't seem true at the beginning maybe, but in fact, if we have a polynomial which is computed by a small circuit, in fact, Kaltofen showed that we can compute a circuit of size polynomial with the first circuit, which compute G. If equals G times H, any factor, we can compute it polynomially. In fact, this proved by Kaltofen, it was Kaltofen sometimes tested algorithm, it's even more than what I said. Because here I just say there is a small circuit for G, and in fact, what Kaltofen showed that there is an efficient algorithm to find this small circuit. Even this construction of this new circuit is easy. Can be done in polynomial size. Recently, Sina Babu and Tirov, they showed that in fact also IMM, VPP, is also closed by taking factors. It is not known for formulas, so we don't know if formulas are closed by taking factors. But so it's true for MVP. So I wanted to say to somebody. So Chukwuma Solon give let's say an easier proof of Kaltofen of this result, not the uniform one, but the one that you just saw. There exists a small thing for G, but I think it's already quite late. And yeah, something which is interesting also, VNP is also closed by taking factors. If you have a polynomial in VNP, the factors, and you can take some factors, the factors can be efficiently computed in VNP.